This program is brought to you by Stanford University.
I know one of the themes of Lively Arts this year is, why live? And I think one of the things that's really wonderful about doing something live is that we tend to think of pieces of music, particularly in this era of recordings, as a fixed thing, as a kind of chunk in the hand, like it's fixed. Once it's on a recording, it goes only one way. But to me, I've always thought of music more as a kind of Tibetan sand painting. It's something you create for one moment of time, and then you destroy it until you then recreate it again. And I think one of the wonderful things is to capture that sense live, that you're hearing something that will never, ever again be repeated. We live in a kind of Xeroxable universe in which almost all of our experiences, whether it be DVD, VCR, or Xeroxing, can be duplicated in some way. But one of the few things that can never be duplicated again is a live experience and a live performance. And I think the audience feels that sense of they're witnessing a one-time only moment. One of the things that I think is really interesting, I know that here at Stanford, there's an enormous Stanford Arts Initiative, and I know that at the heart of this idea of the Arts Initiative is not only to simply introduce the arts into many different disciplines, but to break down the kind of barriers that exist between disciplines. And one of the things that I think has most concerned me about musicians is that kind of gated, and it's actually not only musicians, is that kind of gated community mentality. Not only do we sometimes live in literal gated communities, but each discipline tends to erect their own kind of gated community in which you have its own vocabulary, its own insiders, and its own outsiders. And outsiders are often not welcome or feel that it's a forbidding place to enter. And rarely do we step outside that gated community in order to discuss with outsiders and people from different disciplines. And I think one of the wonderful things about the Stanford Arts Initiative and that whole idea of young people now coming up with this idea of multitasking is that those kinds of barriers are breaking down. This sense that I'm a classical musician or just a musician, and the idea that things have meaning across the board. One of the things that was really a key learning moment for me is when I first started trying to get music across to the general public, and I started my National Public Radio series about 15 years ago. Initially, what I was just trying to do was explain to the public what made these measures of music great music. In the course of doing it, I sort of haphazardly would occasionally come upon a kind of metaphor from multiple disciplines, like the multitasking that you're talking about. And gradually we discovered that the programs that were most successful in getting the music across weren't necessarily the ones where I explained the pure music the most, but where I found a metaphor that would resonate outside the realm of music as well. And that new listeners were coming to the programs about music because I was able to find a metaphor that would explain the music from a different angle, but would also allow other people into the conversation via the metaphor. I was just talking today with someone from the anthropology department and the education department about doing a program on mistakes and the idea of saving mistakes and the idea that there is no mistake. Now that idea can have a meaning purely in musical performance terms. What do you do when you get to a mistake? As a composition, what does it mean to create a mistake? As a life experience across all disciplines. So I do find that topics that resonate outside the gated community of music, that offer a route into music from a different filter, but also offer a filter into other areas of discipline, speak to this generation of students who are constantly bombarded by things coming at them from all different disciplines. And why should those disciplines be separate? In a way, we're all looking at a tree, but some from the science angle, some from the poet's angle, some from the musician's angle, but it's still the same tree.